journey starts today. You've got one life to live. Love yourself, be kind to others, break free and let your spirit soar. Empower life with Cleopatra will help you awaken the best version of you. Empower life with Cleopatra. Oh, 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 oh. Empower life with Cleopatra. Oh, 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 oh.
Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching this show from. Welcome to the show. Who is in the chat? Who is in the chat? Let me see. Let me see. Put something in the chat if you're here. Oh, by the way, my guest just popped out for a second. He'll be back again. He seems to have a knack for doing this now and again. Colin, where are you? Okay, who's in the chat? Say hi. Say hi if you're in the chat. I did put a question in the chat for you to answer if you're in the chat. Yeah, so I would like for you to comment and I'd like for you to answer the question I put in the chat. If you're here, please let me know you're here and put something in the chat for me. I did put a question and I said, in what ways can parents unintentionally be emotionally unavailable to their children, even if they are physically present? In what ways? So I'd really, really love to hear what you have to say. So put something in the chat for me, and I will go ahead and commence the show tonight. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Tonight's episode is real and it's raw and it's absolutely necessary. Parenting regrets, what we wish we never did. See, parenting is one of those greatest acts of love and sacrifice. But let's be honest, it's also where some of our regrets lie. So this isn't about guilt or blame, please. It's about healing, reflection, and growth. Now, before we begin, I want to hear from you watching right now. Have you ever looked back and thought, I wish I hadn't done that when it comes to your child? If so, drop a heart emoji or a yes in the chats, right? I want to hear what you got to say, and you're not alone. So tonight we are going to go there together and talk about the mistakes that we have made as parents, right? So please like this video, subscribe, share. Look, as at last year, this time last year, when towards the end of last year, with my other channel, already had 1,000 people subscribe within 2 months. And now it's been 2 months on this channel, this new channel, and I have not got anywhere near there. So please, if you haven't subscribed yet, please, I beg of you, subscribe and just support me so that we can keep bringing good, shows like this, right? So please share with somebody as well who needs to hear this. And if you would like to be a guest on the show, or maybe a co-host even, send me an email to empowerlifewithcleopatra@gmail.com. That's empowerlifewithcleopatra@gmail.com. If you've got any confessions to make or anything at all that you feel you just want to get off your chest, yeah, they say confession is good for the soul. So if you got anything you want to get off your chest, please feel free to also send an email to empowerlifewithcleopatra@gmail.com. And also, though, if you feel that there are other ways that we can enhance this show, maybe you feel that you want a certain kind of content, or you have any ideas or suggestions you want to give us to how we can make this show even more appealing, more enjoyable for you, please send an email to the same address, empowerlifewithcleopatra@gmail.com. Now listen, guys, parenting is obviously not a solo journey. It takes a community. All right. And tonight we are creating one. Yeah. So thank you all once again for joining, especially the new subscribers. If you're new here, thank you so much. And, I can guarantee you're going to have a good time being in this channel, right? And the regulars who are always here supporting me, thank you so much, right? I really appreciate you. I'm saying that from my heart. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Right, guys, let's see who is here and who has said anything. Lagos Youth Club with Skate Park. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Okay, thank you for joining. Nice to be back. Yes, nice to have you back, Lagos Youth Club. Hi, Maureen. I know it's you, Maureen. Hi, Maureen, darling. Hi, Edmund. Eddie, hi. Thank you so much. We are having a great Sunday. What about you, Eddie? How's your Sunday? Blessed Emmanuel. Hi, Blessed Emmanuel. God bless you for being here tonight. Now, listen, I did ask a question and I need you guys to answer that question, please. Yeah, I said, in what ways can parents unintentionally be emotionally unavailable to their children, even if they are physically present? Even if they are physically present, in what ways can parents be emotionally unavailable to their children, even if they are physically present? I need you guys to answer that, okay? Answer that, and then I'll go ahead and introduce you to my guests. Now, guys, the guests that are here tonight are the same guests I had last week because this is kind of like a sequel to last week's show, but this time we're talking about parenting mistakes because we do know that nobody is above mistakes. Parents do make mistakes. There's no manual that you're given when you have kids. So I'm inviting them back again because they have some things they want to share, and I'm sure you'll be able to empathize with them again if you're a parent. And if you have any other, comments you want to make, or even if as your parent yourself, if you've got any mistakes that you've made before in the past, you want to share with us, drop it in the chat as well. Okay. Now I'm going to introduce my incredible guest, like I said. So first of all, let me start with Cindy. You guys know Cindy is like she's amazing, isn't she? She's been on this show quite a few times. You recognize her from the one I did with her titled Menopause, Sex, and HRT. That was a good one. You need to watch that show, okay? She's also done a show where she shared about her journey with postnatal depression. So you need to watch that show as well. And obviously, she was here in last week's show. So she's been here quite a few times. And if you go back and watch those shows, I promise you will not regret those shows, right? So she's a seasoned IT project manager. She's a passionate mental health advocate. She's a wife and a mom of two amazing young men. She's an author in the making. I keep saying, Cindy, how far have you gone with that book? Because we want to read that book, okay? She's an author in the making. And through faith and fierce honesty, she shares her story to bring hope to others. Her message tonight is that healing is possible. Even if you've made mistakes in any other areas of your life, healing is possible. So next, let's welcome back the deeply grounded and inspiring Deji Babalola. He, like Cindy, is back to continue from where he stopped last week. His appearance in Modern Men's Challenges had such a strong impact that I'm still receiving positive feedback till now. Deji is an IT professional. He's a minister and a mentor whose presence uplifts everyone around him. He blends wisdom with humility and strength. And tonight, he's here to help us unpack fatherhood, forgiveness, and faith. And finally, let's welcome back the incredible Mr. Collins Archipiers. He was a guest on last week's show where we talked about modern day parenting. Please, guys, if you really haven't gone seen that, if you haven't seen that show, go and watch it. Seriously. Collins is an award-winning actor. He's a producer and a director with over 60, guys, 60 films.
80.
No, 80 awards.
80 awards. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the films, yeah.
See, I'm even telling you what you've done, all right? Films, all right? And 80 awards to his name. He's also a senior manager at the London Underground, and he's a proud father of 3 children and a grandfather of 2. His journey is a masterclass in dedication and balance. And tonight, he's bringing his experience to this very real discussion. All right. All right, guys, let's dive in. Listen, I'll be posting these questions to you guys in the chat as well. Anything I ask them, I want you to also answer, right? Because you are in this journey with us, all right? So you are also my co-host, my virtual co-host, and you're my virtual guests. So every time you hear a question that resonates with you, just drop the answer in the chat as well, right? Just drop the answer, and you never know who might find the healing thoughts or anything that you have to say that will help somebody else. You never know who might find them useful. All right. So The first question I asked you guys, I'm asking my panel now. In what ways can parents unintentionally be emotionally unavailable to their children, even if they are physically present? Collins, do you want to take that away, please?
Oh, thank you. It's a very important question. And it's very easy to say, yes, I'm attached to my kids and everything. But most of us parents, sometimes we bring our workload home. We're so busy, preoccupied, concentrating on what we have to do at work or what we've missed out. Or perhaps you're just like a workaholic. You're at home, you're still searching your mails, doing things, thinking, okay, I'm taking care of the kids, I'm giving them what they want. And you just believe you're there, but you're there physically, but emotionally you're detached. You're not with them. You A child can come up to you now, say, oh, Dad, can you help me with my homework? You say, oh, go and ask your mom, I'm busy. Can't you see I'm busy doing something? You'll be thinking, well, yes, I've given the child everything, but that most parents should be mindful of.
Hmm.
Leave work at work.
Mm.
I remember when I was a train operation standards manager, my governor would call me very early in the morning to prepare everything for the business meeting. It should be on his desk at 8 o'clock for the business meeting for 9 o'clock. The phone would go, and because of that, I was leaving my phone on ring because when he calls, if I'm sleeping, I have to pick the call up. So I realized I was emotionally detached from my wife, in fact, because most of the time I have to go to bed early so that he might call me around 8 o'clock or before 8 o'clock. So not only your kids, you could even be emotionally detached to your wife. But let me just say the kids, because they are the ones that we have to care for more. They look up to us. If your child sees you all the time, you're on your laptop doing office work while you're at home. Some parents don't even have time to take the kids out. So these are the things. You might be at home, but you might be not attached to the kids at all. Sometimes you need to get that's what we call a family phone time. Have time with them, make fun, crack jokes, do some games. But most of the time, we are so looking to make money.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I'll leave it here for now because I know the others have lots of contribution to make in regards to this question.
Thank you. Deji?
Thank you for having me yet again. Um, yeah, it's this is a very interesting question, and this is a question that even takes me back to my own childhood. Growing up, in Nigeria, and knowing how number one, African parents are, which is you don't say anything, you don't talk back, you can't really question things. You're in the same home, or you're even afraid to ask questions because um, you might deem disrespectful or rude. So that way you keep your own emotions within. But then me then being a father, trying to think back to how my childhood was, and because you can't really say much compared to the children of the Western world, is trying to rearrange that and change it, and trying to have that balance of having an understanding of where the children are. You coming home, like Colin just rightfully said, you coming home from work, not having enough time with the children, but also not having to listen to their own opinion over things, around, or what even things you want to buy, or asking them questions. So changing that around is helping, to bridge that gap of drawing the children closer rather than, pushing them away emotionally. So that is how, for myself, I was able to try and navigate that, to the best of my ability. It really, I wish the children were here to answer this and put us right and say, oh no, that's not true.
Mm,
So I'll leave that for now as well. And
mm. Okay. Thank you. Cindy?
Yeah, some of us are still scarred. Some of us who grew up like in places like Nigeria, we are still scarred by the way our parents brought us up. And I'm not blaming them, it's what how they understood it. And because of that, some of us carry it into our own marriages. And uh, do the same to our children, except we make up our minds that, you know what, I'm not going to bring up my children the same way my parents brought me up, So it's like when your child comes to you and is asking questions, because one thing is that if you don't want a situation whereby your children develop emotional attachment to people outside rather than you had better listen to them.
Mm.
Because sometimes most of us parents just don't, they're talking, but we're not listening. We're either on our phones or on our laptop or doing something else. And sometimes, and that is the same thing that was created. This, I think, is the same thing that was kind of created for boys, especially, where some fathers will tell their children, even mothers will tell their boys that you're not meant to be crying. You're a boy. I mean, who says a boy or a man cannot show emotion? You understand? When you are vulnerable as a man, that makes you a very strong man, as far as I am concerned. If you are vulnerable, you show your weakness, because
Mm.
we are not all strong, you
Mm.
know. So, and then avoiding conversations, like your children are asking they listen to stuff outside, they come home, they want to ask their parents because they value their parents' opinion. And when the parent is not forthcoming, then they end up going out and they get the wrong advice. From the, I always, what I used to do till when my kids grew up was like, I don't want anybody outside to train my kids for me, in the sense that, yeah, people will, they will advise your children, they will help your kids outside, but I want to, the foundation of my children should be from the home, not from outside. And most parents also rely on the school to take care of the children. You can't rely on the teachers to take care of the children. They have, like, how many children in a class? About 30 something children. And you think the teacher would have the time for your child? No. So we need to make that an emotional connection with our kids and be always available, always, and I mean always available, to talk and to speak and to have discussion, even difficult discussions with the kids.
Okay.
It's very important.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, where's the line between protecting your child and overprotecting them? And what harm can overprotecting do in the long run if you're trying to always put your kids in a cocoon or wrap them in cotton balls, overprotecting them from what's happening in the world or from whatever? What harm can that do in the long run? And how can you draw the line between overprotecting them and actually just at least protecting them from things that that are definitely harmful to them? Deji?
Oh, overprotecting the children is very, very easy to do. Extremely easy because, um, a lot of the things that we parents do, comes from our own understanding and our own childhood, our backgrounds, and in that way, a lot of the time we try to avoid some things that either happen to us or repeat things that our parents have done to us. And one of the things in that regard was, if remembering with my own children, where there was overprotectiveness, both myself, my wife, was we didn't really allow our children to go out, maybe having sleepovers, spending time going to friends' house. We really did not allow that, and that is because of where I was coming from and where my own wife was coming from, and what you hear within the communities. You don't want your children being abused, or anything happening outside of your own I'll say, your own environment.
Mm.
So that was one of the things that I would say, we were very extremely protective of, honestly, not allowing our children, even if they're out, trying to play, we're like, come in, those sort of things. So that is, an area I would say, looking back, I was, extremely protective because,
Mm.
and that came from my own upbringing. Honestly, I was not allowed out of out of the gate, even though most times, we tend to find a way to get out. So because
Mm,
of that, I was extremely protective
mm,
of hearing things that happen to other children. So trying to stop that from, happening in my own home.
mm. Okay, okay, thank you. Let me quickly take this comment from Dukbe Awoshika. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you're still here. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel, Dukbe. Thank you so much. I'm Blessed Emmanuel as well. Dukwe says to the first question that we asked, yeah, she says this happens when when we talk about emotional attachment and stuff like that. She says this happens when parents get too occupied in their work commitments, even while working at home. Yes, definitely. I think Colin said that, and Deji also alluded to it. In fact, everybody alluded. So you're definitely on the ball there, Dukwe. You're definitely on the money. Thank you so much for that comment. Please keep the comments coming in. Keep the comments coming in. Right. Okay. Collins.
Okay, us parents, we always tend to overprotect our kids, thinking we're doing them, or doing them a favor or helping them out. You see, I'm glad because we need to draw the line. For me, I like to give practical example, what is happening in
Mm,
my household or what I'm going through, the way I do things. You
mm,
see, you can have a child, you protect the child in a way wherein you want to know the friends the child hangs out with, especially if it's like gang, you try to get the child to say, hey, don't go down that road. Or perhaps if the child is going out, you want to know where the child is going and
mm,
all of these things. You're protecting the child because you want the child's safety. But when you start going overboard, overprotecting the child, that's where the problem is. We need to draw the line. Overprotecting kids could be a case wherein, say, for example, now the kids want to wash the plates. You say, oh, you don't know how to wash the knife. Leave it, I'll do it. Don't touch the knife. Don't do this, don't do that. That is not helping the child at all. The child needs to learn, the ability or the chance to learn and absorb things and do the wrong things and learn from it. What I mean wrong things, not to go and do something that's going to land in prison, but sometimes we have to just take the back seat and watch the child, observe the child, do the things that the child needs to do. Us parents, we tend to want to micromanage children when we know, say for example, a child 10 years old, or say 16. Okay, yes, the child is still underage, but that child knows a lot of things. But some parents would want to keep an eye on that child every now and then so the child doesn't make a mistake. And that for me is going overboard. I'll give you a good example. If you have a child now, you now like try to make sure you wake the child up in the morning to go to school. You make sure everything the child needs, you prepare the breakfast and everything. You might think you're doing the child a favor, yes, but that child will never learn. I was spoiled by my parent, by my mom. I never ever knew how to cook. I think I said it the last, thing. I
mm,
never ever learned, and for me, she thought she was doing me a big favor, helping me out, but that for me it was not good. So we should be mindful how we protect our kids, not to go overboard in the sense that kids will now rely on their parents when you're overprotecting them. A child could
mm,
do something in school now. Instead of you do the right thing, instead of reprimanding the child, you go to school, starts to put up a fight. Why did you do this to my child? This child would have been like the perpetrator of some kind of whatever thing that would have happened in the school. Instead of you let the teacher know that, you know what, I appreciate you discipline my child. I appreciate the detention. You have it got the child. So yeah, the teacher picking on my kids because he's black or because she's black and what these things. The child will now think, oh, I have somebody who's going to be on my corner all the time fighting my case for me. These are things we have to be mindful of. I will stop for now and let the
okay.
others say
Yeah.
something.
Yes, 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 because I'm conscious of the time, Cindy. So yeah, if you go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, I have two examples from my personal experience, and that's what I'm going to use to answer this question. Like I remembered when my youngest son was very ill. It happened when he was in nursery, taken to the hospital. Then I found out later that 45 minutes they couldn't find his pulse. If they had told me on the phone, they would have been actually taking care of two patients. So ever since that happened, I became so overprotective. about, nothing must happen. This, I was very nervous. But one day, you see, we need God in all that we do. One day, God sat me down and said to me, these children, they are not yours. You are just a custodian to bring these children into the world. All you need to do, you are a guide, you are a guardian, custodian to these children. I've put you there to guide them, to lead them, to just help them. But I am the one that will protect them. And ever since that happened, I just simply completely, and I mean completely, handed the whole thing over to God. And even this was in the middle of my postnatal depression issue, but God was really with me. So I just handed the whole thing over to God. And ever since, when they are leaving the house, I just commit them to God, and I know they are coming back home. Nothing is going to happen to them, And that's one. And another part of it is being, I have a son who used to be a perfectionist. Everything was a perfect. When he was in school, from primary school, when he's doing work and something is wrong, he crosses it, he goes ballistic. And then it became, the teacher called us, and we found out this is not, it's not right. I had to deal with it at home. And whenever it's working, and I did it intentionally. Whenever he's doing work, I just go near him and I just mark on the paper. And when he wants to get angry, I tell him, no, that's not how to deal with it. So I had to help him to control that, So, and that I did that. And another thing that I know that can be a result of being overprotective of children is that those children will never grow. They'll be babies for life. And that's why we have some boys today that, even though they're supposed to be men, they're still boys because mommy pampered them and mommy overprotected them, And then they grow up to lack independence. They can't make decisive decisions on their own. Everybody, they need mommy's opinion. And that's why some of them who are married have problems in their marriages because mommy have to make the decision for them. So these are the things we need to guard against.
Okay, perfect. Let me see what the audience are saying. Welcome, Betty Adejumo Popuola. Thank you so much for joining. Robin, thank you so much for being here. Robin, you don't need to apologize. I know how things are sometimes, but you say, sorry, I'm late. I was talking to my surrogate parent, who's my elderly neighbor, whom I have been looking after over and during, before and after her surgeries. Bless your cotton buds. So, Robin, thank you so much. Bless your heart. You're such a kind person. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Okay, so let me ask this question then. How important is consistency in discipline? And what are the long-term effects when parents are inconsistent with rules and boundaries? Okay, I want succinct answers, please. Cindy?
Yeah, if you tell a child, don't do that. If you do this, I'll smack you. Or if you do this, this is the consequence. When that child does that, please, you need to carry out that punishment you already promised. Because if you don't, every other time you tell the child this and this and this, the child will never take you seriously.
Yeah.
Because you will say, oh, mommy is always saying that. She won't do it. She's always saying that. So I'd better carry out the punishment.
Okay, cool. Collins?
Yeah, to add to what Cindy just said, another thing again could be the child misbehaves, you start punishing that child, and the child realizes that, okay, I shouldn't do it again, and makes that same mistake or perhaps a little bit more than what was the previous mistake. Instead of you being consistent and say, hey, you've done it again, okay, if like you grounded the child or give me your phone or going out football or gallivanting with your friends, you let that child be, he didn't do anything. The child is going to start thinking, oh, okay. The child will try it again another time. You didn't do anything, and then another time you want to do something. As far as it's not working, that's all I would say. You have to be consistent. As soon as you become inconsistent, the child will play you and even your partner as well. So that's it.
Perfect. JJ?
Well, what I can say is, they say, spare the rod and you spoil the child.
That's right.
Discipline in the home is very important. And it speaks of the parents' authority in the home, because once you want to discipline a child and you don't follow through, you're losing your authority, gradually.
Yeah,
And what it is you're showing that child, for them also to be, inconsistent in
yeah.
what they themselves do, because they learn from us and they see what we do, they watch us. Like Colin said, they'll be watching to see what you are doing as a parent. And that way, they will, like you said, they will just play you, and authority is being lost, and you're not showing that right authority, and discipline, in helping those children to correct, that behavior is going to continue.
Mm.
And that's why it's good to follow through, to stamp it out and, stop it quickly.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. Now I remember I know a parent, and I've seen so many parents do this. Sometimes they will say things like, I saw a woman actually who used to say things like, "Oh, you dumb child, you're so useless. It's nothing good will come out of you. This, that, and the other. You're such a useless child. I don't know why. I don't even know how I had you. I don't even, And then some will even say things like, you look like your dad, and I don't like your dad. I hate your dad, especially if they're divorced from their father, from the children's father. So how does using shame or harsh words on your children impact a child's development, and what are some healthier alternatives to disciplining them instead of using those sort of words on them? DJ.
Mm, very interesting. I'm an advocate. I don't like, from childhood, I've never liked, words, negative words being spoken, either to me or over their children. And that is something that I know the power of words. And once you have that clear understanding, first of all, it's whatever you call your child is what your child becomes, because you have that spiritual authority over those children. As angry as you might, or as if that child has done something to upset you so terribly, you have to restrain yourself, and not, like, for instance, the room is, dirty or untidy, and you say, "Oh, you dirty boy." Honestly, that is going to be what that child will end up. So, knowing that, my goodness, is something that I refrain from. And what I do is I say what I want to see, in those children, because you will have what you say according to
Mm,
the scriptures. So it's where, if the thing is so terrible, is you will not find anything negative coming out of my mouth. That is just one thing that's personally, um, yeah, I really really just can't stand. And
yeah,
when I see parents, I mean, in supermarkets and everything else, and that thing just makes me boil. Why? Because that is what that child is going to become in life.
yeah.
And unfortunately, some parents, out of frustration, speak negatively. So you have to say what you want your child to be, and
Mm.
that is what that child becomes.
Okay, okay. All right, that's cool. Let me quickly take these comments from my co-host on the chats. And also then I'll get Cindy and Collins to answer this as succinctly as possible so that we can get through a lot of questions. Robin says, even though I'm not a parent, parenting in my mind is predominantly protecting and guiding their kids. And Maureen says, being consistent is very important. And Robin says, it ain't easy. And why I'm not a parent in today's world, hard to keep up. The simplest fix, block social media and various chunks of internet until people are 18 or 21. And he continues, I have been watching some films, often crap, from the 1980s, including films in which there are groups of kids. It is extremely noticeable how relationships between themselves and others have changed. Yeah, relationship dynamics between parents and kids has really changed, honestly. Parents can't keep up. Even those who aren't succumbing to the same serenic doom scrolling charm to which their kids are so enthralled. I would hate to be a parent nowadays from that front alone. And Maureen says using harsh words is a no-no. Thanks for joining, Ophelia Cole. She says there's power in the tongue, which is very true. Dupe says boundaries are key for children, or else they will take you for granted 100%. And Lagos Youth Club with Skate Park says, my kids are used to me saying things like, you are very wise. That is a good one. That's a good one. And Ophelia says, very true at Ophelia. So, no, Maureen says, very true. And Maureen agrees with Ophelia. Yes, Collins, please.
Yes, just like what Deji said, there is power in the tongue, there is power in what we say to our kids. Pronounce blessing, good things on our kids, not something negative.
That's
You
right.
see, these kids, they see us as role models, they see us as people, parents I'm talking about, who they can learn from and who care about them. You see, so when the child is coming or doing something wrong, you say you're going to be like your daddy, useless, you're not going to be anything in life. That would play on that child's mind. I remember there was a time I visited someone and the person was saying to the child, you're not studying at all. You're going to fail. You're not going to get any good job because if you don't study, you will fail. So I said to the person, but you shouldn't tell the child he's going to fail. He said, well, I'm just letting him know so he will study. That's just to sensitize him to study. So sometimes us parents will think what we're saying, we don't mean it that way, but we have to be careful. There's power in the
Yeah,
tongue. And the child would always have that up here. That's all I would say.
thank you. Cindy.
Yeah, the Bible says death and life, they're in the power of the tongue. Whatever you speak to your child is what is going to become. And, I cannot use the same mouth that I used to bless and pray for my children and use that same mouth to curse them. It's impossible, because we need to be very, very careful. These are children that God has given us to take care of, and then we are doing this to them. If you don't want to be a parent who start running in the future from one pastor to another prayer house over your children, then don't say what you shouldn't say. Because one thing I trained my children with as they grew up themselves, I always tell them, I said, if you don't have anything good to say with your mouth,
Don't say it at all.
keep quiet. You can't pronounce, I said, you have to be positive, speak the word of God on yourself. And that is what I speak to my children. I can't be, then you find parents these days praying and fasting and waiting on the Lord for 30, 40, 50 days over their children. I'm not saying everyone that didn't, that said whatever. Well, some people, it may be different issues that is leading them to go to prayer houses and all that. But you cannot, please, if you're listening, please stop. If you've been doing it before, stop. These are your children. Stop cursing them. As a parent, if you don't have anything good to say to your kid, keep quiet and just take a walk.
I prefer that positive. I think Lagos Youth Club did say something just now. He says he would normally say to his kids, you are very wise. I know it's not all the time. If you see your kids doing something bad, you don't have to keep, telling them nice things and all. You can reprimand them in a loving way so that they learn. But I prefer to always speak those positive affirmation over children than to what everybody has said. I totally agree with everyone. And Dupe also agrees, and she says speaking negatively to a child is the start of demeaning a child. And there is obviously power. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. Okay, that's good. So let me ask this question, and I'm asking the audience as well. My co-host in the chats. Yeah, what happens when parents compare their children to others? And how can this affect sibling dynamics or self-worth? I know parents who will say, oh, this is my favorite child and this is my favorite son or whatever. So how can that affect sibling dynamics? Not just comparing with your own children, with other people's children, thinking that other people have got the star child and you haven't. How does that affect the child? And I'll ask Cindy.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can't even compare children because children they have different personality. So you can't say because one is this way, the other one has to be the other way. Because once you start doing that, believe me, you are damaging those kids. You are creating a barrier between them. Personally, one thing I've always prayed for and I've always advocated in this home is that it's just you two. So you need to be close. So I cannot, as a parent, now create a barrier by pitting one against the other, saying you are the best one, or I prefer this, or, obviously you won't say it, but your attitude and your behavior will speak volume. So
Mm.
we need to be very careful how we approach these things. You have to, we need to encourage, like for instance, you have a child. One is like super, super smart. The other one is smart, but takes time to process stuff. So you don't expect what happens with the one that takes time to process stuff to do exactly the same thing with the other one. And you need to let the other one know that, look, you need to support your sister or your brother
Mm.
so that, you need to look out for one another. And the other one needs a lot of attention because he unconsciously would be trying to compare himself or herself to the other smart brother or sister. So we
Yeah.
need to be very careful. We need to manage that dynamics
Mm.
properly.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'll be creating a problem, major, major problem in the future. And the kind of problem that can separate those kids from one another.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Collins.
Yeah, I agree with Cindy 100%. But I just want to look at the flip side of this just to create some buzz here. Sometimes, I know most people might not agree with this, but sometimes when you compare your kids with somebody who's made it, who's been so dedicated in his or her education, studying round the clock, going to library to study, or always engaging in what's not. Because I remember it worked for me some years back when one of my kids, I won't mention him, was a bit, oh, I'm clever, I'm brainy, I can make it, and blah blah blah. Then I said, that's your friend that normally comes with you, because this friend is slightly 2 years older than her. And it was like, she's a medical doctor. And I said, so, as the saying goes, the height of great men so rich and kept were not attained by sudden flight. For they, while others slept, kept toiling throughout the night. That child was studying, studying. You said you clever, you brainy. Please, if you want to be a doctor, you have to emulate that child. Keep studying. It worked for me, but some people might say no, you shouldn't have done the comparison. It's not siblings or anything. It's just a friend, a close friend of my daughter who made it. And now my daughter is a GP as well. So that's worked for her. She started putting more effort. And sometimes when she will say to me, oh, I'm seeing my patient, you come call me later. I was like, oh yes, that's my daughter. But it worked. I did that on purpose, made that comparison because she was thinking, I'm so brilliant, I'm so clever, I don't need to study.
Mm.
I know some people might say, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, but it worked for me. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Did you?
Right. Just as Colin has said, that's a positive side. But then, let's examine something. What if, I have four boys. And so what if, one of those boys is not, I don't mean, I'm using other children. It didn't, but what if, you have a child who is misbehaving and a child who is unruly? At some point you will have to point to one of the other ones who may want to, follow and to correct in that way. Not that you're pitching one against the other in that way. So for us to have a very, very good balance on this question here. But it is very, very important,
Mm.
to ensure that, a parent knows, the difference of character, nature of each of those children, and then you know how you can address each of those children. Like I said, with four boys, I mean, it was just something that you can't compare, the eldest with the middle, or the youngest in that way, because they were just all different.
Different.
And, you address each one, differently. It was, I mean, it would have been completely ridiculous to use, maybe my last son with my first son, seriously, because, one was extremely, extremely funny,
Mm.
and the other one was, he was just very, very temperate, in nature. So you couldn't, try to say, oh, be like, no, he was just ridiculously always doing funny things that everybody would just be cracking up. So, it's something that there must be a very, very good understanding. And I can recommend people to watch your the last show where they were talking about parents having license, to
Yes.
raise children, because seriously,
Do parents have a
you know,
need a license? Do they
yeah,
need a
they,
license to have kids?
absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Let me quickly take this comment on the chat. Maureen agrees with Cindy and says, "Well said, Cindy." And Betty says, "Comparing children is a no, 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 no." And Ophelia says, "As parents, we need to understand that our children are individuals and should be understood individually. Parenting is not it's not a one size fits all, one style fits all." I absolutely agree. And Robin agrees with Duke Bear and says, "Although I agree with you somewhat, kids need to know that there will be 95% of the time that people do not agree with them. They need to know how to deal with that." Okay, okay, that's cool. Now, I know a parent, actually, I have one of them, who would not apologize. They've done something wrong that they will say to you, "I have nothing to apologize for." All right? So deal with it. So, is apologizing to your child a strength or a weakness? Collins, please.
That's a strength, 100%, because you're teaching that child when he's done something wrong to
Mm,
apologize. Some
yes.
parents will think, I know it all. Come on, I'm not going to say sorry to that child. Come on. And blah, blah, blah. For me, I've done it so many times to my kids. Sometimes I misjudge. Like the other day, my son came late and I was like, "Oh, you've been to that guy again, right? You grounded." And he waited for me, finish. He said, "No, dad, I was blah 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 blah." And I was like, "You sure?" I said, "Okay, I'm gonna call this person." When I called, he was there. I called him. I said, "I'm very sorry." He said, "Yes, I know you will be sorry because I know I wasn't, But it's good that when I apologize and I let him know that, please, in future, if it does happen to you, you're not big to say sorry. Sorry seems to be the hardest word, but it heals. It
It
helps.
does.
Thank you. So for me, that's it.
Perfect. And did you?
Right. This is something where to apologize is something that honestly I used to do. I still do with the children because, the reason, even though, growing up, I don't think I can remember my mother ever saying sorry or something to me. But in reverse, it's where let helping the children to understand you can make mistakes. In life, you can make mistakes and then correct your mistakes and be bold enough for you to stand up to your wrong. So that is, what I, teach the children as an example. Whatever it is, I boldly always say to the children that there is nothing you want to ask me that I will not say it boldly the truth. And if I'm wrong, the most of the time, if I'm wrong, I'll put my hand up so that they too, I'm teaching them that, when they're wrong, they too can easily just, say sorry and apologize.
Mhm.
That's it.
Perfect. Thank you. Cindy?
Yeah, just like Deji, my mom never heard sorry from her. She never apologized to anybody. Anyway,
That's
so
African parents for you.
so yeah, for my kids, my children, I being to apologize to your kids is a show of strength, and the
Yep.
fact that you are you respect them, and you respect them, because some parents feel, why, in fact, I know people who still tell me that, why should I apologize? What, I'm older than them, they're supposed to listen to me, and please, that is so 250 years ago. If
Mm,
you want respect from your children, you need to learn how to apologize if you have done something wrong,
mm,
you know, because your children will respect you more, and they will be more, they will find you more approachable, but when you are the kind of parent that does not apologize and you think you know it all, you're putting a barrier between you and your kids. Eventually there will be a wide gap between you and them, because they'll
yeah.
just feel, you know what, he's always like that, she's always like that. I
Cool.
don't need to have any conversation with her, you know. And then they do some, and you know, one thing that we need to be very careful about is that when you accuse a child of something and you don't apologize, you've already put in the child's brain that even before you ask any questions, you've already concluded that he's done something wrong or she has done something wrong. And
True.
that is damaging
Mm.
because some kids you find out that they now decide that, look, I'm just going to do it because they will accuse me anyway, and they will never apologize, even if they find out that I didn't do it.
Mm.
And that happens a lot in the society.
Okay, nice one. Thank you. Let me take this comment from Dukwe. Dukwe says this brings about rivalry, and if care is not taken, you have planted a bad seed. For my children, I have always prayed and planted a cord of unity amongst them. So there's no sibling rivalry or whatever, loving one or preferring one to the other. Tunde, thank you so much for joining. Tunde says children are different and shouldn't be compared, but you can give encouragement when one has done well. Let me take his other comment before I take Robin's comment, since it says apologizing is the first step, but asking for forgiveness is in some serious mistakes is needed, as it ensures the child does not resent the situation. Absolutely. And then Robin says, in my mind, it is all part of the problem why kids seem to be running rampant nowadays, being placated on everything, on only told about why bad things are wrong, and with no accountability when they have done wrong. Actually, often it is blamed on the teachers or parents as to why kids have done wrong. I think that's we're talking about the issue about um uh,
Overprotective.
overprotecting kids, right? Okay, so thank you for that, Robin. That's really,
Absolutely.
really good. And then Maureen says parents should make it a habit to apologize when wrong. Age should not be a barrier to
Mm.
apologize. Absolutely. And who is Big? Big, whoever you are, thank you for joining. I like that name, Big. Apologies. Apologize to child is a monkey see monkey do thing. Oh, monkey see monkey do thing. You know that what's it called phrase? Monkey see monkey do. So, you lead by example kind of thing. So I
Okay.
get you. Apologizing to your child is more like, if I apologize, which means it's a good thing to apologize. So apologize to other people as well. When you're wrong, don't be too proud. And Robin agrees with Dukbe and says, I'm not sure if I am misinterpreting your messages. Um, uh, I apologize if I have, but it is not God's responsibility. In my mind, He sets the guardrails. So I think, and then Dipo, thank you so much for joining. Dipo says apology is no weakness. Sorry and thank you is part of the value parents expend to their children. Thank you so much for joining, Dipo. 100%, I agree with you, Dipo. And Robin says, and it's up to us to be the path we take with our kids. Between those, some parents will bounce like a pinball between those guardrails. Others will create an even path between those, so it's not confusing and inconsistent. So, you know, I used to know a guy, a father who would say to his children, "Oh, you're my favorite daughter," and then the other one would come, "Oh, you're my favorite daughter," and then the son would come, "Oh, you're my favorite son." And then when the man passed away, they were saying, "Oh, I used to be his favorite." He said, "Shut up your mouth! I was his favorite." I was like, "Shut up! No, I was his favorite." you know. So he made them feel like they were all his favorites. So they all felt loved. So yeah, okay. Let's take the next question. So now, why do some parents, I don't understand this myself, but why do some parents push their unfulfilled dreams onto their children? And what's the emotional toll that will have on the child? And I know you guys, I'm not going to belabor it because I know that time is going, but I just need that answer. Like, why do parents do that? Deji.
Oh, I mean, but some parents do that because they feel unfulfilled from their own, childhood, and they put that pressure on their own, child or children to try and fulfill what they couldn't, in their lifetime. And that, in some ways, goes back to, things like education. Because children of today, some of them, they want to pursue education and others don't want to. And, being able to, guide that child in the right path, and to be careful that you're not having to, put undue pressure on that child, and which eventually will lead that child not to be able to, um, fulfill their own dreams, or, they might resent you, and or the direction in which you're pushing them, they even just don't go there. They don't even achieve anything at all.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough that, none of that was something that, my own mother, put on me. As a matter of fact, if I wanted to go to school, fine. If you didn't want to, fine. It was like, okay, whatever you wanted, what you want to do. So that really just helped me personally just to relax. So even if I, failed in something, I didn't feel, any undue pressure to try and achieve something. So we need to be very, very mindful on this one.
Okay, okay. Cindy.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what I would say is, we shouldn't put pressure on our kids to fulfill our own past loss. You know, I know about maybe four people on my fingers that their parents forced them to do what they didn't want to do, and today they are they are not doing anything at all. As in, they have become, you know, useless. Let's put it that way. They become. I mean, it's like you leave the. Not all children
Mm,
will go to university. What we need to find out as parents, find out from your kid what exactly is it that they want to do, because not everyone has that capacity to be
mm,
able to go through exams, to be able to do all those academic stuff. But that does not mean that that child is not smart. Children have different values, they have different talents, they have different potentials. So we need to help them to find what God has placed in them and help them to nurture it and build it, because not everybody, some people, they didn't go to uni and they are doing brilliantly today, even better than those that went to uni. So
Yep.
we shouldn't, all these things with parents trying to make their children do all sort of things, get them into like a million activities while they're still young, and putting pressure. These things will lead to some children doing drugs because the pressure gets too much,
mm,
and they end up doing drugs. And some of them get depressed. All sort of things, things just go wrong. So we need to be very mindful of that. If you want to know what you want your child to do, if you're a Christian, please speak to God, pray about it, let God guide you. And if you're not, be smart. Be
Okay.
smart. Help your children. Don't put pressure on them. Don't suffocate them.
Okay. Thank you, Colin.
Yeah, I think Cindy and Deji have said it all. I would just want to go a little bit different, not education this time. Could be like a single parent. Mother would be like trying to push the child to get married very early, because it could be a case wherein the mother was refusing all these advances from all these men until she gets to a certain age wherein she is no longer that attractive when she was like in her 20s or
mm,
30s. And then have this child and then start pushing that female child, saying you have to now get married early. Try to even force a man onto that child, wherein the child will say, leave me to make my choice, but the mom will say you're wasting time. So that's another way of like pushing your unfulfilled dreams onto your children.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so let's ask this question. In fact, let me quickly take this comment before we quickly proceed. Um, I think Dikbo agrees with Cindy, says exactly, Cindy. And Robin says, Dukwe is great. Love the conversation. Thank you so much, Dukwe, for your contributions. You have a fan now, Dukwe. Robin is your big fan now. And Robin says, Adeji. Although, again, I have to say, I am not a parent. Too many outsource their accountability, not responsibility as a parent. It is not for teachers. It is not for the government. you are technology and all, So yeah, absolutely. Ophelia says, I think that twofold parents, I think that's twofold. Parents understanding that there is no age limit for education. If they put their desires on hold, they should be able to continue when the child is old enough. And then Edmond says, as we parents are imparting principles to our children, and this will help them grow in becoming better individuals, showing that showing that as an adult you can apologize shows them that it's a strength and not a weakness. Thank you so much. That's a great one, Eddie. I thank you for that. And Ophelia says, secondly, encourage the child to identify and do what they desire. I think totally the panel, my guests are totally in agreement with you on that, Ophelia. And Dupe says they are living their dreams in their child's path, which is so wrong. And Robin says, to be clear, I can see Deji's mouth turned down. I am not criticizing in the slightest. It is the balance of perspectives that is the answer to all. The wider the perspective, the better. Lara Coca, thank you so much for joining. She says, absolutely, you said it all, Cindy. So, yes, we are on the right track. Okay, I'm looking at the time. Okay, now, why do parents avoid tough conversations with their kids? And how can they begin to approach these topics? Any serious conversation that they want to have with their kids that they are trying to avoid. How can they approach it effectively? But why do they, avoid it in the first place? Deji.
Well, I think in this regard, if you were not brought up in that way, if there was never any sort of discussion in your family, and for most Africans who've grown up in an African home, that is a very, very common thing, because I do not ever remember any sort of touchy subjects being discussed in the home, with my own mother. So in approaching that with the children, initially was something that was difficult for myself, because I'm thinking, how do I go about this? How do I navigate this? Even though those things could be burning things in your mind, and only just because I mean, if I'm just being truthful here, only because of how those things were approached with myself. However, now it's rather different, whereby things can be openly talked about, no matter how difficult it is, and that was able to be achieved for myself, just being in Christ. Without that, I wouldn't have that self-confidence, self-assurance to be able to use experiences to guide them and to help them, and to speak over matters that could be in terms of either with the opposite sex, how you navigate those sort of things. So I will say, for me, I'm only speaking for myself personally, so I can't speak for anyone else.
Okay. We're gonna keep it really short and sweet. I have a feeling that we may have a part two of this show, but it will probably be sometime in May or
Yeah.
June, because there's a lot to unpack. There's still a lot more to unpack. But I'll leave Cindy to say one word, and then Collins, and then I'll make my summation so that we can all call it a day. Cindy?
Yeah, when you come from a background where your mom says if you touch a man or brush past a man, you will get pregnant.
Oh yeah.
That was the background I came from.
That's
So
where I came from.
so when you come from that background,
Mhm.
you will not be able to discuss this kind of issues with your kids.
Mm.
Mm.
But thanks be to God, because of Christ and because of the boldness that God has given to me, I was able to discuss this kind of issues with my children right from when they were young, because I'm not ready for anyone to teach my children
So,
sexual whatever outside. I need to teach them first. Then they have the understanding at home. And then whatever you tell them outside, I've already given them the guide at home. So they know what to believe and what not to believe. And they know that mommy said this, daddy said this. So this is not what I'm going to be listening to.
Mm.
So that is very important, you know. So parents is about fear. And secondly, it's about the fact that they don't have that, sometimes not the closeness with their kids is
Yeah,
what causes the fact that they can't approach those conversation with their kids.
cool. Collins.
Yeah, Cindy just hit the nail on the head. Because you're not that close to your kids, it's difficult to like discuss those kind of things. And I remember when my ex-wife was talking to my daughter when she was just like 10 about sex education and all of these things. Daughter came and asked me if the mom was saying the truth. I'm like, well, it's for you and your
Mm.
mom to discuss that, not me and you. Well, because I don't know what to say. I don't know how to. I mean, let's handle. I said whatever your mom said to you is factual. I'll just put it that way. But discuss with your mom. And she was asking again, how can one get pregnant? I said, well, discuss with your mom because I was not comfortable talking to her. You know,
Mm,
so that's one of the reasons could be because you know that it's the opposite sex. Let's put it that way. I think it's a mom and a daughter thing, and then us men we will just let my mom deal with it, and we'll
mm,
talk to the boys and we warn them not to even try it. If you try it, you impregnate a woman, a girl, sorry, you're in trouble, and blah blah blah. We'll tell them about underage sex, what will be the outcome, and all of these things.
mm. Thank you so much. Deji, have you gone? Have you
Yeah,
said yours? Okay.
yeah. I mean,
Guys, listen, like I said, we're definitely gonna have a part two of this because we haven't even scratched the surface. There's so much to talk about, but I'm conscious of the time. I didn't want us to exceed more than an hour today. But let me take these comments from the chats. Tunde says it's an African problem. Education and being a Christian is the only thing that changed my perspective. That's a good one. And Betty says, it's good to have difficult conversations with your children. My husband and I had basic sex theory education with our boys from the age of 12. Wow, well done, you. That's excellent. And Robin says, and I was joking about Deji's mouth turned down. Robin, he- he's a cuddle bunch, as everyone should be. And if we don't think they are, then we need to find out how to correct so that they are. Thank you so much.
well,
Guys,
well
listen.
done.
Let me just, I'm gonna call it a night. I have a few things to say. So please hear me out on this, yeah? We've had a very interesting conversation, but I'd like to thank my guests for their honesty, their insights, and for speaking their truths. And as we close today's conversation, I just want to leave you with this. Parenting is one of the most beautiful, complex, and challenging journeys that we can ever embark on. There's no perfect roadmap, I keep saying it, but there are signs along the way, little truths that can help us raise our children who are not only successful, but emotionally whole and secure and confident. One of the biggest gifts you can give your child is your emotional availability, not just being there in the room, but being present, really seeing and hearing them. Because a lot of people, they are there, but they're not really there. Your presence tells them that they matter and that their feelings are valid. Being consistent with your discipline. Children thrive on boundaries. It's not because they want to be controlled, but because boundaries make them feel safe. And within those boundaries, you give them space to grow. Let them make mistakes. Let them fall and rise. Overprotection might come from love, but it often leads to fear. And we want our children to face the world with courage and not anxiety. Yeah. So let's lead by examples as parents. Your actions teach louder than your words can ever will. So if you want them to be kind, lead by example, show them kindness. If you want them to apologize when they're wrong, apologize when you're wrong. That's humility, teaches strength, and it's not a weakness. So listen to your children, not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's not convenient, because their voices deserve to be heard. And when they feel heard, they trust you. I think Cindy
Mm.
said that earlier as well. I think everybody actually said that. And trust is the foundation of any strong relationship. Yeah, they can approach you. So avoid the type of comparison. Your child is not meant to be like anyone else. Not a sibling, not compare with your siblings or your neighbor's kids. They are uniquely themselves. Nurture that and celebrate that. Don't project your unfulfilled dreams onto them. Encourage them to chase their own passions, even if they're different from yours. You've got different destinies. Like Chinsini said that time, you are just a guardian. So that's how they find their purpose and not pressure. So have the hard conversations with them. Talk about their emotions, their failure, their identity, the uncomfortable truths of the world. When you avoid topics that are, you don't want to talk to them about, you leave them unprepared. But when you engage them, you empower them. And lastly, shift the focus from performance to personhood, from achievements to values. Shift them. Let them know that they are loved, not for what they do, but for who they are. Parenting is a lifelong learning. It's a lifelong learning curve. We all make mistakes. But what matters is how we're willing to learn and grow and keep showing up. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be, you just have to be present. You just have to be open. You just have to be honest. And your children don't need a flawless parent. They just need you, the real you, the loving you who's helping them to grow. So if this episode has blessed you, if you've learned something from this, and if you feel that somebody else can learn from this, please share, like it, please comment, subscribe. You've done perfectly well as a parent. So keep doing the good work that you're doing. Right. I'd like to thank my fantastic guests, Collins, Deji, Cindy. Once again, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. We'll see you in the part 2. And my wonderful co-hosts, my audience, thank you so much for joining as well. And let's see what everybody else has said in the chat. I think Robin says there are quite clear recommendations as to what kids can do when, e.g., knowing what's right from wrong at the age of 7 to 10. I don't know the details though, not a parent, but I bet they're very few. And kids develop over their youth. Yes. So thank you everyone for joining. Robin, Tunde, Betty, Maureen, Lara, Dupe, Ophelia, and everyone who's been here at Lagos Yacht Club, Big. I can go on and on. So many people joined today, and I'm so pleased that you're all here. Thank you so much for joining. Have a lovely week, guys. Yeah, I'll see you next week for honestly, you don't want to miss next week's show. It's going to be a pleasant surprise. Yeah, I'll see you next week. But in the meantime, be good, be kind, but most of all, be empowered. See you guys. Bye, everyone.
Empower life with Cleopatra. Awaken the best version of you. Unlock your true potential. Empower your mind, body, and soul. Live with intentions, live with a purpose. Empower your dreams, make it happen today. No matter your age, rise and shine. Live boldly, live authentically. It's your time to rise and shine. Empower life with Cleopatra. Awaken the best version of you. Today, you've got one life to live. Love yourself, be kind to others, break free and let your spirit soar. Empower life with Cleopatra. Will help you awaken the best version of you.